We've been talking a lot about it in looking at the numbers. When you talk about the percentage of adults, Americans vaccinated, it does vary. I mean, we had that map here in Chicago. Depending on your zip code, your neighborhood, it could vary wildly from, I don't want to miss it. We had one zip code, like West Loop, was 100%. The number was 100%. Then you had some other areas that were in the 20% as far as adults vaccinated. Why? And what can be done about it? Joining us right now, he's an author, he's a CEO. He's Todd Furniss. Todd, good morning to you.
You make me sound so important. Thank you for having me.
You are, as far as I'm concerned. You got a new book out called The 60% Solution, Rethinking Healthcare. So my question to you is, let's start with, what have you found? Why are people hesitant, and what is stopping them from actually getting the vaccine?
Well, lots of folks think they don't need it, or lots of folks think they don't want to get it yet because it's early in the going. And then there are another group of folks that say, hey, you know what, I don't trust the leadership anymore because all this politicization of the quote-unquote science makes me nervous, and so I'm just going to hold off.
Yeah, and I can understand that. The mixed messages.
So but how do we get people to get the vaccine, which, the doctors say everyone should take?
See, I think there's a seminal question that comes before that. And the question is, should we? The assumption is everybody should get this vaccine. Well, really? Women between the ages of 15 and 44 comprise 20% of our population. Okay. We have no idea what happens to those women if they get pregnant and they've had the vaccine. Should they get the vaccine? That takes 20% out right there. And then we've already vaccinated over 50% of adults, and you've got another 10% that have already had the disease, and then you've got probably another 5 to 10% that have a natural immunity. So you've got at least 70% that you can get a check in the box for, and another 20% that maybe you shouldn't. So that really only leaves maybe 10% of the people that you're trying to get vaccinated. And the question becomes now, why? Why should you put so much energy and so many incentives out there to get that last 10%? And we really have, because I've been trying to figure this out, what is the real issue? On the left, they say, well, this is a public safety issue and everybody has to trust the science. And on the right, they say, the Democrats want to control us. Well, while both may be true, I think there's really an underlying sobering issue, which is there's a tension between the rights of the individual versus the rights of the collective. Meaning, at what point does the right of the individual to say, no, I don't want the vaccine, or no, I don't want to engage in this behavior? Take for example, smoking. Right, smoking used to be permitted everywhere. Now they say you can't do it inside of an airplane, inside a bar, inside of a restaurant. And that in what those instances, they've said that the rights of the collective to avoid secondhand smoke are greater than the rights of the individual to smoke. Okay, I get that. But in this instance, it's different because the person who's going to be affected now is not the person who has already been vaccinated, it's the person who hasn't been vaccinated. And so in that instance, the individual should have the right to say, hey, I don't want to get vaccinated. If I get the disease, it's on me. I'm not going to infect anybody else because everybody else has been vaccinated.
Yeah, but we don't know that. You brought up the 20% of women, which are you saying that women shouldn't get it because there is a chance that that fertility will be affected? Because I thought the doctor said that was not true. The science.
I'm saying the doctors have absolutely no scientific basis for that conclusion because you don't know. And I'm not saying that the vaccine is not safe. Don't misunderstand that. I'm saying that we don't have enough information. I point to the example of the women the mothers who took a medicine particularly to avoid miscarriages back in the 50s. Their children grew up deaf in many instances. Right. And so it was well-intentioned to take the medicine. It was well-intentioned to avoid the miscarriage, but we didn't have enough information at the time. And as a result, lots of adults grew up deaf.
We didn't know what we didn't know.
Right. But by that same argument, we could say that the people who are vaccinated, they are at risk from those who aren't vaccinated because we don't know if the non-vaccinated can still infect the vaccinated, right?
If the non-vaccinated can, that's Well, no, not really, because if people who've been vaccinated can get the disease again from people who catch the disease and are not vaccinated, then what's the point of the vaccination? So there's a circular.
I'm with you on that. And you know what you're doing is you're singing to my libertarian heart, and I appreciate which is it's a basic fundamental question. Get away from putting COVID in it. Get away from putting vaccination in it. This is what I hear Todd Furniss, our guest, the author of the 60% Solution, Rethinking Healthcare, is saying is what I've been arguing all along. Why should I care if you get COVID? Now, there is an argument. The only argument I could make, Todd, is there is a financial burden. Should I share in the financial burden of your bad decisions? The problem is I probably already do.
Oh, well, I would love that question, because if that is the string you want to pull on, then we've got a whole world of hurt problems that we're going to address.
Yeah, right back to smoking.
Let me give an example of this one, really, because this is a big one and nobody wants to talk about
Ready.
it. It's a social dilemma we have right now. Let me give an example. The CDC came out and said that 78% of all people who were either hospitalized, intubated, or died from COVID were morbidly obese.
Right.
Okay, so now you just said, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to share in the financial burden associated with other people's health concerns. Okay, what about obesity?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I realize how that.
Bariatric surgery. I've got diabetes. I've got organ failure. I've got high blood pressure. All those things can lead to bad health outcomes. So if you don't want to share my financial burden, that's okay. I'm good with that. Okay, everybody needs to start running laps around the track, because we need to get everybody with a BMI sub 20 or
where do you draw that line?
Easily sub 30. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I would point out to Judy's question, if you think about it, the question's not the other major question, the other really big social question and cultural question that has been turned on its head in the last couple of months is the question of risk tolerance. What physicians and research scientists are supposed to do is they're supposed to advise the policymakers on what the risk profile is. And policymakers are supposed to say, this is what the risk is that we'll tolerate. Think about the flu. The flu is viral, it's contagious, and yet we don't say, hey, wait a minute, everybody has to get a vaccine.
Mm-hmm. And we know that, roughly 50,000 people a year die of the flu on a normal year.
Right. And the mortality rate for COVID is a little higher than the flu. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you're young, meaning if you're under 18, certainly, the probability of your dying is negligible at best. I mean, you can't even find it on the statistical probabilities list. And then if you're older, the probability is even if you have some symptoms, and over 50% of people are asymptomatic, even if you do somehow get symptoms, odds are very good you're not going to go to the hospital, much less die. Percentage of dying is about 1.5%. So if I told you you have a chance to bet on the lake on the Bulls, and you have a 98.7% chance of winning, I'll take my hunch is you're going to take the bet.
I'll take it.
All in. I'm all in. Hey, Todd, thank you very much. We do appreciate it, and thank you for coming at this from a different angle. I love to hear that. Todd Furniss is author of the 60% Solution.